we believe that it outweighs the risk and consequences to them by keeping them at home and keeping them out of that face-to-face interaction. Thank you very much, and I hand back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tufton. You made an important point. We have to live support. So in addition to that reassurance that you got from our Minister of Health, we have to treat with the transportation matters as well. And so we have Mr. Cecil Thoms from the JUTC, who is here to just talk to us about what is prepared for us to treat with back to school, what kind of support, what you can expect as you get your children out next week. So Mr. Thoms, over to you.
Good evening to you, Madam Chair, and good evening to all the panelists. Let me acknowledge the Education Minister, Favour Williams, and her team, as well as the Health Minister, Dr. Christopher Tufton, principals and teachers who may be online. Good evening to you. Well, the Jamaica Urban Transit Company, the JUTC, is always at this time prepared to meet capacity. And usually at this time, it is our standard operating procedure to ramp up our maintenance program. I'd like to mention at least 3 things that we are doing to meet capacity for Monday, when we expect that there will be significant crowd and students turning up for school. The first thing is that we are using our articulated buses, which we call the double bus, which has a capacity to move twice as much the crowd, or twice as much of the crowd in respect to our regular units. We think that this will be able to mitigate any crowding that may take place within the KMTR. The second thing that we're doing is are low, and so we are doing everything that is possible within the resources that we have to meet the demand. Of course, the long-term strategy is that we have been given a commitment by the government that within the next, or should I say within the latter part of this year, we're hoping that in the 3rd or 4th quarter of this year, that we will get an additional 50 buses that will in fact beef up fleet numbers. As you are also aware, the JUTC has a partnership with our sub-franchise operators, and those sub-franchise operators are those smaller coaster bus type units that students are able to take as well, but the fare structure may be a little bit different in comparison to what the JUTC offers. There's also the train service that came into effect earlier this year. Students from Old Harbor and Linstead are able to travel, and of course, when they get into Spanish Town, the JUTC is able to facilitate them by taking them to their respective schools. So that is what we are doing. We know that come Monday, there will be some amount of delays. We're asking, parents and students to be out early to secure their seats and to just bear with us as we work out the details of a challenging situation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Thoms. We are so happy to have you on board. We cannot do this without you. Our children are relying on your services. So I'm happy to see that you have taken some steps to assist our parents in getting our students out on time. The articulated buses, you're going to be increasing your fleet, you're going to be working with your sub-franchise officers and so forth. So thank you so much. This is the kind of interministerial support, Minister, that we want when we treat with this kind of situation. It's a big move for the education system, but we do believe we are ready for this. But we also have Mr. Richard Troop online. He's our National Safety and Security Coordinator, and we want to have him update us also, give our parents some more details with respect to our partnership with the rail service, also what we have been doing with the Montego Bay Metro team that I know you have been having several conversations conversations with, just to make sure that the transportation support, is sure up and available for our parents and students. So, Mr. Troop, over to you. But this is the opportunity that we have launched to find those students, and I would like you also to give a quick update on that to our parents. Mr. Troop, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Troop, Honorable Favor Williams, Honorable Dr. Christopher Tufton, our Permanent Secretary Acting, Mrs. Maureen Dwyer. Good afternoon to you all, and good afternoon to our very important persons who have joined us this afternoon, our parents. The conversation is with you and for you. And so with specific reference to the ministry's support in terms of transportation support to PATH students and some needy students who are not children on PATH. So we have our rural transportation program. This program will be going on for 5 consecutive years. For this year, we are committed as a Ministry of Education to provide transportation subsidy to 7,500 children at the primary and high school level, and 2 special ed institutions across 13 parishes. The program will seek to engage, of course, JUTC through its urban-rural program in sections of Clarendon, Montego Bay Metro in the western end of the island. Our newest partner on the block, the Jamaica Railway Service. I will speak to that in a little bit time, but also we are also engaging private bus operators. Now, through this program, I would have indicated 7,000 children on PATH and other needy students will benefit. Predominantly, the majority of the students who benefit from this program are from rural parishes. We do understand that in most rural parishes, children and the commuting public do not benefit from Montego Bay Metro. The cost of transportation is significantly higher in these spaces, and that's hence the reason why the ministry would have conceptualized this program that would have been going on for 5 years straight. For the passenger rail service, and that is the newest modality of transportation that would have been incorporated in our rural bus program. 6 St. Catherine-based schools are engaged in this pilot project. Roughly 850 children would have benefited from a access card. And so while at this time we do not have brand new trains and it is the old time train we are still using, we have actually utilized technology to support us in this program in the context that it is a cashless service. So our boys and girls will travel from Linstead and Old Harbour to Spanish Town at a much greater reduced cost. The cost actually is $100, $70 on the train from Linstead or Old Harbour to Spanish Town. And Cecil would have indicated that we would have also engaged JUTC to provide a shuttle service for 3 of the St. Catherine-based high school to transport the children from the thousands of our boys and girls parents, would not have been engaged in any of the remote modalities of learning. Many because they did not have the technological device. They did not have access to internet. They did not have access to data. Many of the boys and girls who had access to these particular items also struggled with being online. That's why we're very very grateful that we are now back fully to in-person classes. Since we would have launched hard to identify, locate, and re-engage our boys and girls. But under the yard-to-yard Find a Child initiative parents, we would have engaged 108 social workers on a part-time basis and 580 youth workers to support our school-based team to identify, locate, and re-engage our boys and girls. We still have somewhere to go. I mean, we have not yet reaped the kind of success that we would want to have reaped at this time. We are anticipating that, Dr. Troop, as we resume again to in-person classes for everyone, we will have seen a greater level of engagement. But I'm going to use this opportunity to say to our parents online that this is not just the responsibility of the Ministry of Education to find our boys and girls and get them back in school. It's really a call to action for every Jamaican, concerned Jamaican citizen who must understand that we too have an individual and a collective responsibility to support this effort. So if it is that in your community, you see boys and girls who are of school age, should be in school, not in school, we ask you to reach out to those children, reach out to the families to see if there might be a situation that is preventing. Find out from those boys and girls the school that they belong to, reach out to these schools that they belong to so that we can get in touch with our children. It is our collective responsibility to ensure that every single Jamaican child have access to education. And so as we go back, Dr. Troop, to in-person classes, we are encouraging all of our parents online. Do not only be concerned about your child, your children, but how do we as concerned Jamaicans, as concerned parents, also ensure that we are reaching out to our neighbor's child, a child in the community who might not so be blessed with the resources to come back to school in the way that we would want them to. But with your intervention, it could make a big difference. So colleagues and parents, we really welcome your support at this time. And thank you very much, for the numbers we're seeing online. It is showing that you are very interested in playing your role in supporting a process for all of our nation's children to be back in school. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Troop. You have said it well.
Yes.
A call to action.
action.
It's a
Yes,
national call to action.
definitely, yes.
That's the kind of conversation we're having this evening to our Jamaicans in social spaces all over Jamaica. Whether you're on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, you're all out there. And we're just asking you to just respond to that call. We all have a role to play as we get our students back in the learning environment. And so you have heard from Mr. Troop. The ministry has invested significant sums of monies. We have invested, Minister, $380 million into this rural transportation program to help our students to get to school and to increase the attendance at school, because we know the value of time and task. And so we continue to do that. We have worked with our partners, JUTC, the Jamaica Rail Service, Montego Bay Metro. We have been looking at our private partnerships because we have been working through our schools to look at local partners that we can enroll in the program to support our students and get them to school safely. So we are really trying here from the Ministry of Education, and therefore, again, I reiterate, this is a national call to action. Minister, I've heard that we have some questions online and so forth, but before I go to that, I just want to turn to you to see if you want to, shore up that call some more and help our parents to understand what we are up against.
Thank you, Dr. Troop. Yes, parents, you've heard it from the Minister of Health and Wellness. You've heard it from the JUTC in terms of transportation, Mr. Troop in terms of what he's doing with the yard-to-yard find to get our children back and engage in their education. Yes, Monday, March 7, we are expecting all of our students to be back in the face-to-face environment. we have done some work here at the ministry. In preparation for the resumption, we would have given schools some additional financial support so that they are able to replenish their stock of sanitizers and to be able to get any furniture, especially the high schools. You know, the Ministry of Education and Youth will continue to deliver desks and chairs to our primary schools, but we are putting additional resources out there. We would have distributed 5,000 e-COVID test kits, and we are getting ready to add some more to the system, because even though the 5,000 number sounds like a big number, when you think about all our schools, you know, one school may not get a big amount. So we're looking to purchase additional COVID test kits. Additionally, we are at, you know, today, next week, we'll be sending out 400,000 masks into our schools to help our students. We know that there are concerns, some anxieties about the physical distancing, and you would have heard the health minister talk about that. Yes, when your students go back, when your children go back to school, they will be in a classroom with all their classmates, and they might not be sitting 3 feet or 6 feet apart from each other. And we recognize that that is the situation. We're asking, we're pleading, we're encouraging the students to continue to wear their masks in the classroom. I know that you are already used to taking their temperature coming in through the gate at the school, to ensuring you have your mask on, and to get some sanitization at entrance. And this should be for everyone coming onto the school ground. There should be no exception in terms of the mask wearing. Somebody writing down the name of the child and the temperature. We have indicated to our schools that it's okay just to take the temperature. You don't have to record every single name of every single child and the temperature. Just when you take, you know, when you put that thermometer on and you take the reading, look at it and make sure that it is within the normal range. If it's 38 degrees Celsius or above, we have a situation, and that child would need to be pulled out and taken to the isolation center, the isolation room at the school. And all the schools that are going to be back in the face-to-face environment have isolation centers. That's a requirement for them to have gotten a satisfactory review. Number of minutes to get there, and as best as possible, we're asking you to be as orderly as possible in order to do so. We want to leave a lot of time for you to ask questions, but before we do, I want to remind you that we will be in the school environment that requires your children to turn up in their uniforms and to turn up well-groomed as well. We seek your patience as you take your children back to school. Remember that the teachers and the administrators at the school leaders, they're under pressure as well. It's a new environment for everyone. Yes, we were in the blended environment and some children were at school, but now it's everybody that's going to be there. A lot of our children would have been in an environment in which they were independent. You know, they woke up when they wanted to. They may or may not get onto the online class and so on. They're coming back now in a structured environment, again, where rules are required. We want you to encourage them to be on their best behavior in school, not just in school, actually, on their way to school and back home from school. And we're asking you to be there, to be that support for them as they step out once again into the face-to-face environment. I know as well there are many of you on that might be parents that are getting PATH benefits. That is another area that we will be looking at. I'll ask Dr. Troop to talk about that when she comes back on as to how that's going to work. We would have spoken to the principals today, and those schools, the shift schools, they have a little leeway in terms of over the next 2 weeks how they organize to get the students back. So again, parents, I want to alert you to that so that if the principal gives you instructions, bear in mind that the ministry would have given them the okay for that window of time to sort out the shifts and to accommodate all our children back in school. So as was said earlier on, it's a collective responsibility. It's all of us, all of Jamaica, that we have to come together now to help our children as they get back into the learning, the physical learning environment, to ensure that they are safe on the way to school and back, and to be safe while they're in the school environment. It's going to require patience from all of us, from teachers, from parents, principals, from the transport, the taxi that they have to take or the bus that they have to take. It's going to require patience on all sides to help them to transition back into this environment. Recall that some of our students, especially our grade 7 to 9, they would have transitioned to high school in the virtual world. And so they're not used to the environment just fully just yet. So you're going to hear me say the word patience many, many times, but that's going to be required of all of us as we transition into the full face-to-face.
Are registered in these schools. The principals might have said to you that not everyone can be in for Monday. That is something that we are aware of, and so we're asking you to work with them. They are not breaching any rules. There are some particular challenges at this time with space, as you know, so we have given them an additional 2 weeks to work that through. So we're asking you parents to just work along with your principals and your teachers. Don't just have the students turn up knowing full well that something else was communicated to you, given the 2 weeks window that we have given our school leaders at this time. So understand that some questions are in the chat, and we have some persons who have raised their hands. As per usual, you are in the Zoom space, so you just indicate by raising your hand, and we will give you a nudge to unmute. And so we will call your name, ask you to unmute. You will do so and pose your question. So I have my technical team member, Ms. Thompson, who is going to call on you as she identifies you lined up in the platform, right?
So this question is from Facebook. What measures are being taken with transportation to support students outside of the JUT bus routes, for example, in the rural areas?
Okay, so Mr. Troop is in the social space, and he's going to be helping me with that. But since the COVID, we started a series of conversations with our transportation providers. And so a number of persons have been working with our school leaders to apply the different routes to make sure that support is provided on those routes. I know that many of our principals have been working with our transportation providers in their context, and some kind of relationships have been established, and persons are working with the schools. Those schools with school buses, principals have made those buses available as well. So I'm going to ask you parents, just get in touch with your principals. They will share with you the schedule that they have available to support the movement of students. But I'm going to go over to Mr. Troop. You're still with us. Just kind of give some more updates and those intimate conversations with the different rural providers.
Yes. So great question. And I would have mentioned earlier, Dr. Troop, under our rural school bus program, 7,500 children on PATH and other needy students will be benefiting from a partnership that we would have established with importance of ensuring that children travel to school in a using a reliable mode of transport. Also, more importantly, travel to school safely. The ministry did not create this particular project out of here. We would have been guided by existing partnerships that we would have seen with in other schools where parents and the school and private operators would have engaged in a partnership to transport children safely to school. We would have borrowed that model, replicated that model to ensure that children.
Forgive me, people, for the regular ongoing pause of the live due to the difficulty.
Commitment of $380 million. How do we break down that amount? For every child at the primary school level, the subsidy that is provided for at least 30 weeks would be $37,500. And for children at the high school level, that subsidy grant works out to $56,250. Now, of course, we would say to our parents and to our students and parents, I'm saying it to you today too, we have to ensure that our students understand that they have a personal responsibility for their own safety when they.
Hold on, people. It's Digicel. Digicel, y'all need to tap in. I'm gonna tag
They are
Digicel.
utilizing public transport.
It's their Wi-Fi I'm using, and there should be no reason for any pausing. I mean, there's no rain, there ain't no clouds, there ain't nothing like valid they could tell us why this ongoing pause. Like I've been encountering this for some time now.